welcome to my review of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders episode 40 part 1 of Darby the Gamer. Well, we get the first fight inside the mansion and it's not what I expected to be. And yet somehow JoJo made it entertaining. So the episode begins with the introduction to the butler of the mansion, Terrence T. Darby, aka Darby the Gamer, who happens to be the younger brother of Darby the Gambler. However, the group does not have time to deal with this guy, so Jotaro enters, summons Star Platinum, and attacks him. But before he could attack him, Darby summons his stand, Atum, I hope I said that right, named after the Egyptian god of creation. This stand can apparently read Star Platinum and determine which arm he was going to use to punch him. Now this is one of Atum's abilities, but it's not fully revealed in detail. I believe we'll learn more about it in next week's episode. But even though Star Platinum used his other arm, Atum was able to dodge the attack. At first, I thought it was because he was faster than Star Platinum, but I think it might have something to do with his reading ability. Also, you know it's a trap when Darby wants you to come in and attack him. You know, it's moments like these where I wish that they could attack at the same time. So Atum grabs onto Star Platinum's arm and Darby pulls Jotaro through a freaking portal that came out of nowhere, I guess leading him to another level of the mansion. Kakyoin and Joseph summon their stands to pull Jotaro out, but Darby comes right back up and pulls them through the portal. But before the portal can close, Joseph yells at Abdul to burn the mansion if they don't return after 10 minutes. Jotaro, Joseph, and Kakyoin ended up in this illusionary world containing an island. From what Darby was able to tell them, this was not his stand's ability or Dio's stand's ability, but someone else's. So there is another stand user whose stand can create illusionary worlds or illusions. I think that might be the 10th and final stand user, but I could be wrong, I don't know. I mean, Joseph did say that there are 2 or 3 more stand users remaining. God forbid if there is yet another stand user before we get to Dio, but okay, whatever. Just like his older brother, he too has a collection which he shows to Jotaro, Joseph, and Kakyoin, and his collection was dolls. These dolls can move, they can talk, and that was just so freaking creepy. I mean, it was bad enough in the previous season where we had that Ebony Devil episode with that freaky Chucky doll. Now in this one, we have a whole bunch of dolls that can move and talk and are practically alive. Ugh. Just like Osiris, Atum also has the soul extracting ability, but he doesn't turn the souls into poker chips. He seals the souls into his dolls that he makes and plays with. Oh god, this brother is even creepier than Darby the Gambler. But at least we get some information on how Osiris and Atum's soul extraction ability works. Apparently when a person admits defeat, the soul energy is reduced to nearly 0, which makes the stands easier to extract the soul. During the time when Atum touched Star Platinum, he was able to touch Jotaro's soul and detached his hand, leaving it inside Jotaro's own arm. So Jotaro is basically a hostage, and in order to free him and get out of the illusionary world, they have to wager their souls and challenge Darby to video games. I am not kidding, this is the first fight inside the mansion, and it's video games! Also, they're on a freaking island! How the hell are they playing video games? The first person Darby wants to challenge is Kakyoin, and he accepts because he's very confident in himself and he's pretty good at video games. They play a game called F Mega, which I believe is the JoJo equivalent to F-Zero. Hell, during the game, they use their freaking stands to play, which I thought was kind of funny, yet kind of interesting. And surprisingly, how the game went down was very entertaining, which is very surprising because it's 2 stand users playing F-Mega, a racing game. And yet Jojo managed to make this entertaining. By the way, Darby has a Kakyoin doll that he made, which is very creepy. And you can kind of assume that he made dolls out of the rest of the group. Well, he probably had a lot of time for that. Well, anyway, Kakyoin was putting up a pretty good fight so far with Darby, and Darby even acknowledges him, saying that he is a worthy addition to his collection, which leads to Kakyoin's inner thoughts and a flashback of the time he met Dio. In the flashback, we see these 2 people, a man and a woman, and they might have been Kakyoin's parents? I don't know, they might have also been Dio's victims for all we know. But these two had rose vines wrapped around them, which I don't know where the hell they came from. And we do see Dio and Pet Shop behind him perched on an ice tree. When Kakyoin met Dio for the first time, he was consumed by this overwhelming fear, so much so that his body couldn't move. He was practically paralyzed, and he felt like he was going to throw up. However, Dio, being the manipulative son of a bitch that he is, appears behind Kakyoin and tells him there is nothing to fear, and then whispers into his ear, "Let's be friends." Oh god, Dio was being kind of creepy and a bit rapey. I'm sorry, but that's honestly how I felt when I saw that scene. I mean, seriously, ever since I learned Dio was bisexual, I've been thinking like how he was using his sexuality to further manipulate people better, and oh god, he was using his sexuality to manipulate Kakyoin. Seriously, this is gonna fuel the fan pairings. I mean, like, is Dio / Kakyoin popular? I don't know. Anyway, when he heard those words, he unfortunately gave in to Dio and felt relief in his heart. And that was when Dio implanted the flesh bud into his brain. But even though he felt relief, it was humiliating for him and he couldn't forgive himself for it. He hated himself because he gave in to Dio. And after Jotaro saved his life, that was one of the reasons why he went on this journey. He wanted to overcome this fear and not stay as the pathetic Kakyoin that he was before, but become a whole new Kakyoin. Get it? Because Heritage of the Future, which was also the reason why he accepted Darby's challenge. Now, then we get to the tunnel scene, but it was completely dark, so they had to like drive with no radar while it was dark. So in this tunnel, there are 8 curves, 1 mine, and a cannon. Yeah, there are apparently mines and cannons in this video game, but they managed to dodge the first cannon, and there was a scene where you just hear the engines roaring on the race cars. You can also see the curves in the tunnel, and then when we finally get to the exit, unfortunately, it was Darby who was ahead, and Kakyoin was losing. And that was where the episode ends. So overall, this episode was surprisingly entertaining. Jojo managed to make a video game battle between 2 stand users entertaining. The battle also shows how very skilled they are in this video game. And Kakyoin was able to use Hierophant Green to mash the buttons on the D-pad to make his car spin around, crash into Darby's car, allowing him to restart and become neck and neck with Darby. And he was able to tilt his car when they got to the tunnel and drive on the tunnel ceilings and the walls, which I had no idea you can do that. And we also see how Darby is very skilled in video games as well. I mean, hitting the acceleration button multiple times to get a speed boost before they started the race. Also not allowing Kakyoin to pass, nearly knocking him off the road on the first corner. And they're both so good that they can memorize the timing of each turn when they got to the tunnel. What I also like about this episode was the flashback sequence when Kakyoin first met Dio. It dwells more on his character and gives him some character development. All the more reason why I was rooting for Kakyoin, hoping that he would win against Darby. And you really have to feel sorry for him because this was the first time he met Dio, so he wasn't aware of what he was like. And it also gives us more of a reason why he joined this journey and wanted to overcome that weakness in the heart that was mentioned in last week's episode. As for Darby the player, he's more creepier than Darby the gambler. I mean, making dolls and stuffing the souls into them was just downright creepy. And unlike his brother, he prefers to play fair and square, use his own skills to win, and he prefers to tell the truth instead of cheating and lying like his older brother. And he's also more polite. As for his stand Atum, it's definitely interesting. Even though it has some similarities to Osiris, it has a different ability, which I believe we'll learn more about it in next week's episode. However, I do question the heart designs all over its body. Animation and artwork was pretty good for the most part, but it definitely shines on the video game sequences, especially the animation used on the graphics of the video game. The sound for music, once again, was very spot on. I really like that new theme for Darby that they played when he was showing his collection. it made the scene a lot creepier with that music. But I also like this new theme that we heard from the F Mega video game. The beginning part did kind of take away the seriousness, but when you hear more of the song, it definitely kicks it up a notch and makes the game more interesting when it's playing. Also, it was cool hearing Virtuous Pope again in this episode. As for voice acting, it was cool hearing Takehito Koyasu again as Dio. Even though a bit brief, those two lines just made Dio creepy. It really did. And the voice actor for Darby the Player is Junichi Suwabe, who also voiced him in the All-Star Battle video game. So he's the third person to reprise his role from All-Star Battle. He's also voiced Shinta Fukuda from Bakuman, Relius Clover from BlazBlue Ultra Memory, Freed from Fairy Tail, Archer from Fate Stay Night, Greed from Full Metal Alchemist, Dandy from Space Dandy, Takashi Komura from High School of the Dead, Daiki Aomi from Kuroko no Basket, Undertaker from Black Butler, Keigo Atobe from Prince of Tennis, and Grimjow Jaggerjack from Bleach. No wonder he sounded so familiar. And speaking of Grimjow, he's finally back in the manga! Oh my god, finally! Yay! However, there were some parts that did bug me in this week's episode. For example, how the hell is Darby floating when he was introduced? I know it's got something to do with his stand, but how's his stand making him float? Is it carrying him like when Silver Cherry carried Polnareff? I don't know. And there was this one scene where he threw a playing card at Polnareff when he summoned Silver Cherry to attack him. I guess it was to stop him from attacking him, but I just dang it, what was the point of that scene? Also, in the subtitles, they called Daniel Darby Elder Darby or Darby Elder, and they called Terrence Darby Darby Younger, which I really didn't get that because it definitely said Daniel J. Darby during the Darby the Gambler two-parter on the subtitles, so I don't get why we have this change. But despite that, I still find the episode enjoyable and entertaining. So the preview for next week's episode shows that it's going to be Jotaro's turn, and he's going to play against Darby in a baseball video game, which would mean that Kakyoin lost. If that is the case, then that really sucks because I was rooting for Kakyoin, especially when we saw his flashback, you know? But maybe I might be wrong in that the preview is misleading to something. But if Kakyoin did lose and it's Jotaro's turn, then I'm kind of worried that this fight is going to be a rehash to the Darby the Gambler two-parter. You know, it can be similar either way, I just don't want it to have like the same formula. A person in the group who's just as skilled as one of the Darby brothers faces off against him, but loses by either losing the game or admitting defeat, and then you have Jotaro coming in facing one of the brothers, and he uses some sort of trick with Star Platinum to win. If that is going to happen in next week's episode, then I guess I wouldn't have a problem with it to a certain extent, but then again, it depends on how next week's episode is going to be. Also, if this were to happen, then I kind of wish that they added the conclusion between the F Mega video game in this episode, but whatever. Although, it would be pretty funny to see Joseph playing video games. And speaking of Joseph, in this episode, holy crap, he was acting like Speedwagon in this. Like, not only like being the cheerleader for Kakyoin, but also narrating on what is going on in the video game. I mean, give him like a headset and he would be like one of those announcer guys that commentate on what's going on during the game, you know? Also, how is it that Darby and Kakyoin were able to maintain their focus while Joseph was yelling a lot? Even Darby was getting irritated. I mean, he said to Joseph, "Shut up, you're distracting me." But Joseph just like frickin' smiled and giggled. Then again, this series has a lot of characters yelling, but out of all the characters, I think Joseph yells the most. Oh man, I love the old man. So, tell me guys, what do you think of this week's episode of Stardust Crusaders? Did you like it? Did you hate it? What are your thoughts so far on Darby the Player and his stand Atum? And what did you think of the F Mega video game battle between Kakyoin and Darby? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you like it and subscribe for more videos. And be sure to check out my Facebook fan page and Google+. So yeah, that is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders episode 40. Really good episode, and I'm really hoping that Kakyoin wins. I mean, this is his first official fight since he's returned to the group, and it would really suck if he'd lose. I mean, after all that character development and flashback. I'm Lunar Response 27, and I will see you guys later. Bye.